Some of you, like me, might be the kind of person that doesn't really like small talk and kind of wants to skip to the good stuff, right? And that's just not the way it is. Sometimes you have to have those small talk. But those deep conversations, that desire that we have to have those DMCs, is a good thing that God has planted in our hearts. Maybe, like me, when you're teenagers, you like to have those sleepovers and ask those personal questions to get to know your friends on more than just a surface level, and that is a good thing. But those deep conversations aren't just for anyone. Because as women, when we talk to the opposite sex about things that are deep, personal to us, or things that maybe we've struggled with, or even something that's you're healing and you just need someone to listen to, the opposite sex isn't always the right person to talk to, especially if you aren't in a serious relationship, because we can often become emotionally bonded to them because we feel loved by being listened to, and that is a good thing, and we all need to be listened to, especially those things that are really deep. They do need to be talked about, right? But I would recommend talking to someone like a counselor, or even, depending on what it is, even a trustworthy friend of the same sex, like a fellow girlfriend or a fellow guy friend if you're a guy. Someone that you know that is trustworthy and draws you closer to God, a true friend, and then you can have those conversations with them. And even though it might seem a bit weird and a bit uncomfortable, depending on the situation, I would also recommend talking to your parents. They're there to help. It's important to share those things with your parents, and they can be there for you and they can help you because they're grown up and they've gone through maybe similar situations, and if they haven't, then they're learning something as well. So it's important you have those deep conversations with your parents as well, even though that might seem a bit weird. Not all parents are like my parents, who are quite listening, and sometimes, like with different cultural backgrounds, those things can be touchy topics. So it does depend, but I'd still recommend trying at least. And even if they're not the type of person to listen and they're probably quite tempted to give advice, that's kind of their job, really, to give you advice. So I'd just be aware of that. If you are going to talk to your parents, have that prerequisite that you're going to be receiving advice, and be open to that advice and pray about it as well, because your parents are just going to say and do what they feel is best for you. And this whole topic is really about living chastity in terms of our mind and our heart, because as you know, chastity isn't just about physical boundaries. It's about the entire person, which is both the mind, heart, and body. And even though earlier I said if you're not in a serious relationship, some conversations are best to be left or to wait for, this also includes dating in some senses, because if you're at the beginning of a relationship, some things do need some time before you can discuss them. For example, there are some things that Craig and I talked about closer to when we started talking about marriage, and closer to when we were considering engagement. And I think it is really, really important, definitely before you get married, ideally even before you get engaged, to have those deep conversations and really get to know the other person's heart, their experiences and their struggles. This doesn't mean you can't talk about deep things when you're dating. It just means that there are some things that if you're still healing from it, or it's something that is a very personal experience to you, that you might need to discern that with God and talk to God about that. And that's the same with all of these topics. It's great to talk to a counselor, but if you're not talking to God as well about it, then there's only so much you can do. I mean, it's just so important to talk to God and to bring it to prayer. So really discern who you tell things to, because it's not necessarily because they might go tell someone, which is another problem as well. But I personally haven't experienced that. For me, it's about guarding my heart. And especially as a married woman now, there are some things that I will not be telling, even my close girlfriends, or there will be some things that stay between me and Craig. And I think that's a really beautiful thing. And so even if you're single or if you're dating, bring those things that maybe you're unsure about whether I need to bring up or not to a trusted person, and especially to God. So I hope you enjoyed this video and you learnt a little something. It's slightly different to the way that I've talked about chastity in the past, but it's something really, really crucial, and I think as women, something we really need to think about guarding our hearts and living for God. God bless, and see you in the next video.